morning. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Feels like we were just here. Good morning, Chris, Shadow. Good morning, Will, Rich, Greasy, Enrico, John. Good morning, everybody. Let's see if we have a little opening range gap here. That's the first thing. Got the open, and then we have the close. Opening range gap. There we go. Got it right this time. And let's see. Oh, hey, cool. Spoke to ICT and he said he'll come by. Childhood bestie. Nice. No wonder why you're a good coder, Chris. All right. Here's my analysis. So yesterday, if y'all noticed, we did take that last month's high that I mentioned that we had a high probability of reaching up to. So we did get there. Now, this is what I'll be watching. This is what I was talking about yesterday. Right here. Are we going to displace up through these highs and leave a fair value gap? Or today, Friday, are we going to immediately rebalance this here and trade back to this high, which is 862.75? If we trade all the way back down here today before the close at 862.75, then I'll still be neutral on my overall bias. If we close anywhere above that, leaving a fair value gap, I'll shift my long-term bias to more bullish. And then that fair value gap, I'll be watching all next week to see if it holds up and continues to push price long or if we invert it. That's what I'll be watching for. That's what I mentioned yesterday. So already today, we have ran up through the previous day high, which was yesterday, obviously. I marked this here as a spot to watch because we still have this SIBI, this bearish fair value gap here on the daily. And we have not fully closed in. So I have this high marked. That way I know if we do reach up there, that's what I'm looking at. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on the daily, the long term. The 15-minute. All right. So there's not much, we have all these fair value gaps down here where we expanded yesterday. What I'm looking at is I'm marking out these relatively equal highs here. This is a bit of a buy side liquidity. Here's buy side liquidity here. That's also London's high. So we're trading back up into London's range. All right. And basically we have this inversion I want to look at. We have this 15-minute fair value gap right here is what I wanted to see if we'd reach down into and then continue up through buy side. Or if we're going to invert that and trade lower. My bias is for my trade is it to reach into here and not close underneath it. I don't think we're going to take this I have this as a minor sell side because there's some relatively equal lows here and this 15-minute fair value gap. That is a possibility that we wick down on the 15-minute, sweeping this and head up. So I need to wait this morning and see where do we want to sweep first. I'm looking for this sweep. Are we going to sweep this buy side and then come down into this? Basically, it's three things. Is this going to hold as internal range liquidity and push us up through buy side, kind of like yesterday? Or are we going to sweep here and head up? So I kind of need to see which direction we're going to go first. There's no more news this morning. However, Trump has a tentative speaking slot today. Doesn't say the time, just says tentative. So again, keep your financial juice up and running. On the 5-minute, if you look here, kind of have some relatively equal highs up here. Can't talk. Relative equal highs up here. There's those relative equal lows. So we'll see where we go. not extremely focused on one side or the other just yet. Our opening range gap is not very big. It's the 083 to 108. So there's a 70% chance that we fill this in before 10 a.m. And if that's the case, I will be waiting to see if we reach down into here. This would be a bullish order block. So to see if this holds right in this area, like I said, it might have a chance to sweep the sell side, reach into this 15-minute fair value gap. And if it does that anywhere here or here, if I get a really nice look to go long, I will. For the moment, I'm still a little more bullish overall just because we have this potential displacement. So I would want to see. I don't think in our morning session we'd close this up. So we'll see. We'll see. It's kind of my analysis for now. All right. So let me double check something here. All right. Make sure everything's looking good. We're good to go. All right. All right. Good morning. Good morning, Tyler. Good morning, Trader Joe. Good morning, David. David and I had a good, nice little brief conversation yesterday in Discord. Good stuff. Good stuff. So here's another thing too. Like, I'm not really bullish at the moment, right? I think we may continue up, but I don't have to have that happen. But then if you look too, I was talking about that immediate rebalance on the daily chart at 862.75. What's down there? So if you look down there, we still have a lot of inefficiencies down here. Lots of new day opening gaps, lots of data highs and lows, new week opening gaps. There's a lot down there that could attract price down. We still have this 15-minute volume imbalance from yesterday that we never even reached into. We reached into the fair value gap portion of it, but not the volume imbalance. So that's what I mean. It could, we could see, like I could get along from this area or down here to take through buy side liquidity, but we might, for the day, see it sweep buy side liquidity all the way up here, see it sweep all this, and then potentially run down there. It's not out of the question or equation, but it's not something that'll probably happen for me during my session or my trading, but you know, we'll see. So we did dip into here. You see how we're dipping into here? We didn't quite fill the opening range gap low. I'm definitely going to be very patient today. I've had a great week, right? Good week, really good week. I can't lose today. I mean, can't lose the week. Even if I lose today, it'll be a profitable week. So the golden rule, y'all know the golden rule. Don't do anything stupid on a Friday. So just relax. If we get this here where I was talking about and a potential setup to go long, if it happens before 9:50, I'm not taking it. Today, I really want to wait for 9:50, maybe even 10 a.m. Now, if it closes this opening range gap low here before 9:50 or 10 a.m., and then we get, like, basically what I'm trying to say is, if we get a setup to go long here before 9:50 and it does not fill the low of the opening range gap, I won't take it. However, if it fills that low and then we get a setup and it's around 9:50, then I'll consider it. But a little volume. Oh no, this wick reached down through that. Never mind. I was gonna say we had a little volume imbalance over here, but then this wick, you see that, reached right in here, closed up. Like we're looking a little more bullish for the moment. I would have liked to see this close the opening range gap just because it's such a small opening range gap. But hey, it doesn't have to because we have the 15-minute fair value gap here and this 15-minute inversion here. If it does close the opening range gap, if it does, then even better. And I'm sorry, y'all, I'm starving, so I have a little a little yogurt here. I'm gonna munch on. Little strawberry yogurt. Yeah, and I'm keeping that financial juice running right here. Because if I see something about Trump or he's going to start speaking or something, we got to be aware of that. Like that's one of the biggest threats right now to trading. Especially for people that use mental stops. Using mental stops, this is my saying, y'all. Using mental stops will make you go mental. Because if you're like, oh, I know I'll get out here. I just don't want it to wick me out and come up. So I'm not going to put a stop. I get it. However, right now, if Trump takes a podium or tweets, that thing can shoot anywhere. Do you really want to risk your hard-earned money that you've been working on, for that? Take out a week's worth of profit, couple weeks worth of profit? No. I've had that happen way too many times. It's not a great feeling. Not a great feeling at all. So I don't know if we're going to have any new people on the stream today, but I did get about 20 new subscribers yesterday. So that was cool. So if you are new, welcome. Welcome. The channel, it's not the most like, I'm not going to have music bumping, I'm not going to be screaming. I'm not going to be doing all these kind of things you see some YouTubers doing. We're here to trade, relax, be disciplined and patient. And then every now and then, Chris will make a joke. Yeah, you see how it's just playing around there. Playing around. We still don't have a first presented fair value gap, by the way. So here's another little golden nugget I've picked up on one of ICT's videos. Is he mentions, actually that video I recommended the other day. If there's no fair value gap, then you're in potential high resistance. You're in high resistance liquidity conditions. If there's no fair value gap on the 15-minute, if there's no fair value gap on the 5-minute. So what should happen is a fair value gap should form every quarter, every 15 minutes. So at 10 a.m., we should get a fair value gap form. 10:15, you should get one. 10:30. If you don't have one forming, you're in high resistance liquidity conditions and you want to reconsider entering the marketplace. Music and other fancy stuff is meaningless. You're 100% disciplined. Your trading looks like you're having fun. Yeah, because here's the thing too. With the way I trade and this trading style, I'm always anticipating. Like, I can't just have the charts running and like, let me, look over here, look over there, come back to it. If it does, if I see this breakout, like I can't do that. I have to always be anticipating. And when you're always anticipating, you're tuned in with the market, right? It's like you get in the zone in a sense. If you haven't read that book by Mark Douglas, Trading in the Zone, read it. But anyways, you almost get in a zone and then you can anticipate. Doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but you anticipate. No, Tyler, there's no more news today, but Trump is supposed to speak and they have him scheduled as a tentative time. So we have to watch that. That's why I have my financial juice ready to go. You know, there's a report that comes out. You know how like news report comes out at say 8:30 or whatever time they're supposed to come out. There's a place that will release the news information, the actual results. Like that's like why do you think there's two reasons why the market immediately moves like on the dot at 8:30 or whenever the market drops. Like there's no way. Think about it. If the market moves immediately on the dot to the millisecond on news drops, how do you think that happens? That can't happen. Like nobody has time to look at the report and this is good news. Let me, it's going to run up. It's nobody has time to do that in that time. So there's this place. I got to look it up. I forgot where I found it. You can pay. It's expensive to get the actual news reports 3 minutes ahead of time. So if the news drops at 8:30, you can actually get the results, the CPI, whatever it is, at 8:27. So that's when you have the algorithm fire up and that's why the algorithm at even with news will stop perfectly at certain places. It's because the information is out to certain people 3 minutes ahead of time. All right, so it's about to be 9:50. I'm watching this area here. I want to see if we get a fair value gap because I really liked this area building up support. It's last month's high, inversion fair value gap on the 15-minute, fresh fair value gap on the 15-minute. We did trade to the middle of the opening range gap, so that's acceptable. I would like to see it close, but it is acceptable to trade to the midpoint. Yes, David. Everything you mentioned there. So what y'all see on my live stream, as I mentioned yesterday, I've been in basketball, sports my whole life, basketball mainly. When you see a shooter, Steph Curry, or anybody that's great at basketball, go in and they can't miss a shot, you're seeing the performance. You're not seeing the work, right? So you're seeing the result of the work that nobody sees when you are by yourself or when they're in the gym shooting by themselves, right? So what you just said, David, do I do back testing, recapping sessions, all that? I do everything. I spend so much time honing my craft and watching, recapping. Oh, you know what? I found the button that I accidentally hit. Space clears everything. So do not hit your space bar if you're using TradingView. Thank goodness there's a back button. Anyways, so yeah, every night before I go to bed, I review my trading session. That's one of the main reasons why I love to record myself. It's like watching film if you're an athlete. I go back and I watch my emotions. That's how I got my emotions in check. Because when I first started or when I had discipline problems, I'd go back and watch my video and I'd see it all in my face. Sometimes I would get, we've been there. If you haven't screamed or like banged on your keyboard or banged on the desk or something, have you even traded? But I go back and I'd look at the video and I'd be like, that's me? Oh my God. I feel bad for my wife in the other room. So then I started that helped me. I started doing that. And I do go back. I review my trade session. I write down what did I do right? What did I do wrong? Everything. The weekends. So I don't do a ton of back testing though. I'll go back and just review and look and say, okay, this worked. And then I love to do more forward testing. So then I'll just watch charts the next day and say, okay, it did work. This is how many times it worked. This is how many ticks it pulled back. This. And I just note everything. And then as you do that, it just starts clicking. There will be a point where you're just like, aha. Rich, I use Bandicam. There's a free version. I think it gives you like 10 minutes of time. And you can literally stop it and restart it like instantly if you want to do the free version. The paid version of it, it's like $50 for lifetime, something like that. So it's really not expensive, but it's called Bandicam. I like it because it's super lightweight. Now, obviously, I stream, so I just go back to my YouTube videos. But Bandicam, here, let me see if I can open it because I still have it here. Oh, I hope it doesn't mess up the camera and stuff. Me trying to open it. As long as I don't hit record or anything, should be good. So yeah, Bandicam right there. I think their website's just bandicam.com. Yeah, you can use OBS too. That's pretty easy. It's just Bandicam is super simple. You don't have to set up anything. You just click record and pick your screen. You don't have to make any scenes or do anything like that. But yeah, OBS is free as well. OBS is what I use for streaming right now. All right, so here's the thing. Here we go. It's 9:51. We never got a fair value gap in here. All right, we never got a fair value gap. We did sweep London's low, but this is what I mean. This is what I'm waiting for. We could run buy side liquidity. And see, this is a day where I'm not very specific. Like, I don't need a long today. I don't need a short today. Like, I'm waiting for the market to show me. I need a sweep first of either here. Like, this would have been fine if we would have got displacement in a fair value gap somewhere in here, but we didn't, right? And if you take that quarterly theory of fair value gaps every 15 minutes, we don't have one on the 5. We may be getting one on the 5 right here. We don't have one on the 15 yet. We don't have anything. We did reach into here, which is fine, but now there's no setup for me going up, right? So now basically all I'm doing is waiting to see if we sweep here. I want to see this midnight open, this minor buy side. Well, this is buy side, but then I have another buy side up here with the London high. So I want to see if we sweep anywhere in this area. Let's see. Anywhere basically in this area is where I want to see a sweep. And then I would look for a market structure shift, my setup, fair value gap, reversal back down. And where would I take it down to? Well, I would take it to either the equilibrium of this move up, which is the 50% mark. So basically I would take like the high wherever it went down to the low of this move. Where's my range? There it is. Take it back down to either the midpoint or the first imbalance or PD ray after that. That's typically what I would look for. So if there's a 5-minute fair value gap, 15 minutes, something down here, if nothing forms, then I'm looking to run through these lows and close the opening range gap. So we could be setting up that. This could be a little stop run right here. I would prefer to see a sweep above though. But we have a volume imbalance right here. And if we get this fair value gap, I would wait to see if we build resistance in it, not just if it touches it, just because we do have this inversion, but we're so close to this buy side liquidity. I really would prefer it to sweep that first. First presented on the 3-minute. I only go off the 1-minute chart for the first presented. All right, so we got this fair value gap. It's little. It's very little, but we have an imbalance, volume imbalance up there as well. It might be enough. I mean, you have to include the volume imbalance. But we'll see. Right down to another volume imbalance right here. I don't have confidence in this, but we'll see. We'll see. Look at the volatility picking up. Is Trump talking? I don't see anything. I don't see anything. But I don't have confidence in this right here. I don't. I really don't. Like, I would not look to short this right now. Yes, we did get that fair value gap on the 5-minute. Just closed a minute ago. So we did get that, and price did reach right down into it. That might be what we need to push it up through this buy side. I would prefer to wait for a pullback, because I'm not going long up here, right? Like, I'm not looking to go from a premium to a premium, because I don't see price. I mean, price could just keep going up all day, right? But what I'm really looking for is a sweep up in this area. That's what I really want. And see, this is why I didn't like this as a short. It tapped the midnight opening price. You can see that there. Tapped it. And so, like, this 5-minute, well, it depends where we get an entry. But I was going to say this could be a target coming back down. But it reached right down into it here. We are holding around the midpoint of this, but... And then look at this wick, how it reached down. Or watch the midpoint of this wick. Right here. Now, here's a possibility. I don't think this will be the case, but if price does not sweep and go higher, it could be engineering buy side liquidity with these relatively equal highs right here to return to it later if price does not return to it. Do you see we have this little volume bounce on the 15-minute? So we'll see. I really prefer it to sweep up there first, though. Good morning, Binge. Good morning. It is holding support resistance right here at the midpoint of it. That's a good thing, but watch the midpoint of this wick. And what could happen is it could come back down into this area. I'd prefer it to hold at the midpoint of this wick right here, though, and go up and sweep this buy side liquidity. Like, I don't want it to see it come back and play around right here. And again, y'all, it's Friday. Had a great week. We don't want to do anything stupid and have to live with it over the weekend. Yeah. David says when he did his analysis before the open, the mood was more like I'm likely to not trade today. And when you go in with that expectation that, hey, it doesn't look like I might be taking a trade, then that's good, because if you don't feel like, oh, I got to get something. I got to take a trade. Nice binge. 3 great trades. That's always good. Don't want 3 bad ones. I really don't want to see this come down yet. Now, here's the thing, though. If I go short without a sweep up here, I do need this 5-minute fair value gap to get inverted. I will require that, because it could come down to the midpoint here. Here, let me get rid of this. It could come down to the midpoint. It could rebalance it all the way to the low right here and then head up. So I would need this to get inverted. Also, another possibility. We could see it reach down and sweep the lows before returning up. That's what I was saying up here. I didn't think it would be likely, but it could be engineering some buy side liquidity here for a return back to that later. We'll see. We are having a nice sell-off. This area did build up some resistance. It's not a bad short from there, but like I said, I wouldn't have shorted it, and I didn't short it because we have not far away buy side liquidity that it could sweep. So I'm really not loving much at the moment. Look right back down to this 15-minute fair value gap. We'll see if we invert this 5 or if we're just going to wick down. Because we very well could wick down and close above the midpoint here. And if that happens, I wouldn't like this fair value gap right here either. So I'm waiting. Oh, actually, you know what? This little bitty thing is technically going to be the first presented fair value gap. And I hate little bitty first presented fair value gaps. I'm going to mark this one out here to see what it does. I'm looking for this to get inverted, to be honest. I'm looking for this to get inverted. And if it inverts this 1 minute, I'll be looking for a long to go through buy side. Because we reach right back down again to this 15-minute. We're wicking down. We are not going to invert this 5-minute. It doesn't look like. It's got 45 seconds. However, we got to wait and see what this does here. Now, if you do measure this range, we reached, we almost took the whole thing. We inverted this. See if we get a fair value gap here. See what happens in this inversion. I don't take inversion. I'm sitting on my hands a little bit here. I'm not like, I know some people take inversions. They may have gone long right here if their bias was long. It hasn't really swept either side yet. And I wasn't the thing is though, I wasn't really requiring a sweep to the sell side. I was just requiring this action in the 15-minute fair value gap here. But you trade it right back to the middle of this inversion. Exactly. It's looking it really is looking like high resistance conditions at the moment. We have no 15-minute fair value gap. We had that 1 5-minute. That's really all we've had. And here we completely inverted this one fairly quickly. Now we're not displacing with a new fair value gap like a BISI to go a bullish fair value gap. We're not displacing with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait and see if it trickles up, sweeps buy side, and then look for a short. You can see what that looks like on the 5-minute. That's why I required this 5 minutes to get inverted, because you see this how it where the bodies are closing. It just wicked all the way down. So that 15-minute fair value gap right there closed all the way up here. That's why I required that to get inverted before I considered a short. And like I said a minute earlier, we're just so close to this buy side liquidity. It's pretty hard for me to believe we don't just go up there. I would have taken a long up there if we would have gotten a trade. I mean, I guess if you take inversions, this could have been it right here, but I need more confirmation than that. And then what I look for is once we sweep buy side or we're up in the buy side area, what I look for is the first thing I look for is any fair value gap on its way up there to get inverted back down. Then it'll be my first signal. It may be a sweep. However, if it doesn't invert it, if it holds and it continues, then it's likely to just continue running up. Like that's golden nugget time. That's how you can know if it's a sweep or a run. If it's a sweep, you'll see it invert a fair value gap and come back down. And it won't spend a whole lot of time there. And if it does, it's going to invert a fair value gap. If it creates one somewhere, like let's say it creates this one here, and it runs up into buy side, or if it creates one anywhere, then it reaches back into it. You see it building support, not inverting it, then it's probably just going to keep running long. Like if we get this fair value gap here, which we just did, there's no way I'm taking, well, and this is an inversion now too. But I'm going to erase it because there's very little fair value gap and it just had this volume imbalance right there. But now we got this little bitty one. We took this buy side. I don't require taking this one, although it is the London high as well. So it would be nice if it did take it. But now I'm marking this fair value gap not to use it to go long, because I really don't have a lot of room to go long. If I went long here at 136, where am I going to? Because price could reverse here. It could reverse anywhere between this buy side where I have at 146-ish all the way up here to 162. It can turn around anywhere there. And if I took a trade, if I tried to target 137 to 161, 20-something points, that's okay. I look for 35 plus points. So that's not even enough room for me. So like, I'm not even going to try to force something. I want to mark this, look for it to invert. If it creates a new one up here, look for that one to invert. And that's what I'm looking for. The 5 minutes potentially creating a fair value gap. Right here. I would look for that to get inverted. That's all I'm looking for. Looking for them to get inverted. And then the 15-minute, at 10:15, this bar will close. And then at 10:30, we'll know if we get a 15-minute fair value gap. That's why it works in 15-minute increments. You see, so if you really thought I was going to go through buy side right here and you take inversions, that could have been a decent trade right there. It's just not my model. So what am I missing for your entry model on the 1 minute? Some kind of displacement of fair value gap. I just wanted to, yep. That's why I trade fair value gaps. That's my entry. I need a fair value gap. I don't just trade, but I prefer there to be more than just a fair value gap. So I do look for a market structure shift. I prefer, so like what's a market structure shift? You got a high, low, high, right? Like that. And then when you take this swing low, that's technically a market structure shift. What I like for this to happen, but what I like is basically a fair value gap in here to get inverted on its way down. And then on that way down, create a new one. I don't have to have an inversion, but if I have a traditional market structure shift like this, and then it has a fair value gap, that would be my entry. When it pulls back into that fair value gap and then go down. That's my entry that I'm looking for. If I have an inversion, great. If I have a breaker pattern with it, great. And if I have an order block with it, great. I typically want at least 2 out of those 4 that I just mentioned there. Inversion, breaker, order block, fair value gap. I definitely need the fair value gap, but with the fair value gap, I want at least another one of these 4. And then the no-brainer A+ I'm taking 100% of the time is when all 4 exist. So see how we have, so this is a little fair value gap in here that I would watch. It's not anything I'm looking to trade, but I would watch it to see if it inverts this. It didn't take this high here. We did get very close to it. So I would prefer to see this get swept as well. And if that happens, I'd be looking for a breaker to go short. And basically what that would look like is you have this high, you have a low, you'd have a higher high, and then a lower low. That's our breaker. That would be our breaker. So then the candles from point 1 to 2, including the wicks, would be the actual breaker. So wherever right here to right here would be the bearish breaker. So then when price returns, and then you want to see a fair value gap in this last leg down, because then when price returns back up into that fair value gap breaker, then you're looking for that. So that would be optimal at this moment. And so when you start looking at things like that, you're anticipating the marketplace. So that way you know what you're looking for, you know what you're wanting, what you want to expect. That way if it happens, you can confidently enter. And if it loses, you have nothing to worry about. There's maybe something else missed, or price just wanted to stay bullish that day, or bearish, whatever opposite direction it was. Yeah. So that would be really nice. Now that we made this low, we kind of built up some little bit of support here, right back at the midnight open again. So I would like to see it make one more higher high, sweep here, and then a lower low. Because then because there's some fair value gaps in here, we'd have an inversion, we'd have a breaker, and then that last leg down, I'd look for a fair value gap with displacement, and then we'd have that. And that would be 3 PD arrays. And if it loses, I'm fine with that, because if I lose on a trade that has 3 PD arrays in my favor, whatever, that's fine. Now, I don't require that to go short because we did sweep this buy side liquidity. I don't have to have it go here, but I do need it to be obvious. Meaning, okay, so we just got a 5-minute fair value gap here. So let's see if we trade through this and invert it, or if it's going to hold. So this area, if we do displace down from here, leaving a fair value gap, that might be a potential, because we did sweep this buy side liquidity here. That might be a potential that might be potentially a shift back down. However, we just wait. What did we do here? We inverted this one. Inverted that one. Now, if we reclaim it, meaning we close back above it, I'm just going to get rid of it because there's a little bitty gap anyways. I'm just going to delete it and kind of ignore it. And wait to sweep this high. And then we'd still have our breaker, because you'd have a high here, low, higher high, and then a lower low. That would still be much cleaner of a trade if that happened. And then at that point, I probably will require this 5-minute gap to get inverted, to go short. Because price very well could remain bullish for a while. So you see how we reclaimed this little fair value gap? It's wicked right down to it here. Hasn't closed yet, but very patient today. And if it doesn't look like anything is going to form or set up by 10:30, I'm just shutting it down. It's a Friday. Now, this could be a bearish order block. How we reached back up. If this bar closes down. So what I would do is I'm going to mark the opening of this candle right here. See if this is a bearish order block. If we get this candle closed below, we need this candle to close below. And then we would have a bearish order block, an inversion right here, and if we get a fair value gap. However, this candle that we're on now needs to close down. Otherwise, it's just reaching and taking out sell stops. It did not close below yet. Yeah, REM trades. That's what I mean. I don't require it to take this London high, and this where this buy side liquidity is. I just required it to take this one here. Now you do have to be careful if we do get a short, because we have previous day high here. We have this 5-minute gap here as well. We still have areas where you could expect to hit some turbulence. Now we are getting this fair value gap here as well. So I'm gonna look to short here. If we get back to this fair value gap, my short would be about 138. Stop would be about 156. And I'm not going to go for a whole lot on this, though. I'm going to see if I can do it this way today. All right, I'm going to go short there. Oh, I just put the same things I normally have. Okay, whatever.
Order submitted.
I'm short right here. We'll see if it works out. My stop's here at 156.50, right above this high. Let's see if it doesn't need to sweep there. Here's that 5-minute gap though as well. So if we get a lot of hesitancy here, if it does come down, then I'll basically, you know what? And if it comes down here, it's probably going to close that opening range gap. But if we do make it down here and it just becomes really high resistance and it doesn't get through, then I'll look to move to break even sooner than later. So we'll see. Hopefully we don't do one more sweep and take this high. And probably once we reach into this 5-minute fair value gap and maybe back to the top of the opening range gap here, I'll probably move to break even just to cover, because it is pretty high resistance looking at the moment. I don't love that we reclaimed this little gap and it's kind of holding, but still like it. We have too much here. Too much potential resistance here. Unless price just wants to stay bullish. Which it could. It might be reclaiming that 5-minute fair value gap too. We'll see. It's not looking like it wants to come down. And for me, like, I don't want to be above this high. I mean, it's only a 4-point difference, but if it's going to take me out here, it's going to take out these highs and go through London high. So that's why I don't have my stop any higher. Now, let me mark out this entire potential order block here. There's the midpoint of it. So I want to see it continue to close below the midpoint. It's definitely high resistance. Yeah, I don't think this one's gonna come down. Looking like it's gonna reclaim that 5-minute fair value gap. But this is a trade that, like, even if it loses, I'm not worried about it. Like, I wouldn't dwell on it and be like, what, you know, it would be a comfortable loss. But yeah, it's reclaimed all those bearish fair value gaps. So at this point, technically I could close it and just like reduce my loss. But because I have a very strict money management, I'm just going to give it its chance. I'm just going to let it play out, because I know how much I'm risking, right? So it's like, if it loses, it's not going to affect me. Like I said, we've had a beautiful week. It's been a great week. I'm not going to be down. I'm going to have a nice, profitable green week, even with this loss if it loses. It'll only be a $35 loss for you. Oh, did you? Because you're still on, I guess, small size, right? That's about. It's less than 20 points for me. It's like what, 18 ish. So it wouldn't be a big loss. It'd actually be a little bit smaller than normal for me. What's 18 times 4? About 72 ticks. Yeah. Thanks, Danny. That's my goal. That's my goal with the stream. Just show what I do, my approach to the markets, and that's it. This one, I'm fairly confident it's going to lose, but we'll see. Maybe we create a little 3-swing high and drop, but what time is it? 10:26. This was what I was looking for. It showed some move down, so hey, it is what it is. It's probably going to displace up and through. But like I said, I have my money management in place, so I just let it work itself out, whatever happens. Like, I'm not even touching anything. Just let it go. Right, Danny. Yeah. The narrative is there, and that's what makes you comfortable, and that's what makes you put the probabilities in your favor. So now I could, because I lost confidence, if this does get back close to my entry, I could just hop out. Get a break-even type of trade. But you see how it's reclaimed these fair value gaps? The middle points holding, like all that. It's very unlikely to come back down. So this is where I need a Trump tweet. And it's also not a bad idea. I don't think it'll help this trade, but I could put my target right below my entry. That way, if it does wick back down again, it could just like knock me out. I mean, I could do that. But I'll see where everything closes. At this point, I would believe we go and take this London high now. Yeah, that's the way I like to do it. I just don't touch anything because I already know my risk, right? I already go into the market expecting I can lose X amount, whatever that amount is. For me, it's up to 120-ish ticks on the day. And if I lose it, I lose it. Today, it's a lower risk. I'm only going to lose about 74-ish ticks if it loses. So just let it go. You never know. Sometimes it could do a deeper pullback and then displace down. Now, I will say, if it does end up coming down again somehow, because I'm not thinking it does, you can get out break even. But if it comes down to any of these lows again, I will move to break even at that point. Yeah, Chris. Like right here, could have got out of break even. But I already know my risk. If we get another displacement, another fair value gap right here, then I could tighten it down and let it go and see. I will wait and see if we reach previous day high again in this area, this inversion, then I'll move to break even. And this is definitely showing high resistance liquidity conditions. I want to see this stay open. If it could stay open, that'd be good. Because see, here's the other thing. When you have a framework, it doesn't always go smooth. But if you have a framework, just let it play out. I could target. I mean, you can literally target anywhere down here. I'm just putting it down here because if we do end up displacing, we're likely to close. Well, it's 10:30, so maybe not. I'm just going to put it right back up to this low, actually, because it's 10:30. So it might not go all the way down. Now we got this fair value gap here. I want to see if that holds up. See if this... It's really not a bad idea to just go back to break even. I'm tight. I'm just going to... Depending on where this bar closes. If this bar closes around here, I'll leave it. If it looks like it's going to close up any higher into this area, I'll just close out my trade. Reach back into this fair value gap. At this point, if it does not displace, then give me out. So I'm going to break even. I'm going to break even. Because if we don't displace, then I want out. Because we need to displace through these lows now. Otherwise, get me out. Displace through the lows. Very high resistance. I might trail pretty tight just because, I mean, this is high resistance. That way I can lock in something if it doesn't go. It might immediately rebalance this right here, but we'll see. All right, hitting previous day high, hitting this inversion. It may reject there. I don't care. My trade's free, plus a little bit of profit. We'll see if it goes. If it knocks me out on this one, it knocks me out. Because I honestly feel like I shouldn't be winning this trade. This should have been a loser, in my opinion. So if it knocks, I'll take whatever I can get. Inversion here. See if we get this little fair value gap. Previous day high there. And if we get a displacement through this low, I'll tighten up even more. Like that. I'm good. Wherever not right at the middle of the 15-minute fair value gap, I'm out. I'm out.
Order canceled.
I'm good. I'm good. Like I said, that one, I feel like... Oh, what happened? Trading. Shouldn't have... Yes, the framework was there, but we're in high resistance liquidity conditions. So, have a great weekend, Joe. Trader Joe. We're in high resistance liquidity conditions, and because we retraced all the way up here, that's why I have my stop up here. We inverted, reclaimed, all this area. I mean, it may keep going down, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be clean. It's not going to be pretty. So for me to have this little bit move and be able to move into profit like that, I feel good. And it's Friday. So flawless week. No losers. We'll take it. We'll take it. And it's small. Sometimes it happens, right? Sometimes this happens this day. What can I say? What can I say? But it is, let's see, It's a good mindset to have every morning. You come to the market. Da, 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 da. Yeah, David. I'm just now catching up on that chat because I was focused. But yeah, coming into the market, that's why I didn't move my stop. Hey, I could have moved my stop, got to break even, whatever. Could have closed it early, reduced my loss, or I know how much I'm willing to risk each day and and that's it. Yeah. But see, here's the other thing to this, right? What was experienced today is still patience, discipline, and money management, right? Protect your trade. Protect yourself. If it's not looking good or if it's not doing what it should be doing, be prepared. Be prepared to protect yourself. Because yeah, I could have left my stop up here and just let it do all this work. But if you know it's looking like there's high resistance liquidity conditions, all kinds of stuff, there's no reason. It's Friday. Just call it. We had a great week, you know? It is what it is. Now look, let's take the quarterly theory of high resistance liquidity conditions into consideration and let me show you something. Let's go to the 15-minute chart. Tell me, here's the open, 9:30. Tell me, where do you see a fair value gap after the 9:30 open? Where do you see it? I'll wait. Because there's not one. Every 15 minutes, there should be one form somewhere. There's not one on the 15-minute showing this could be high resistance liquidity conditions. You could drop down to the 5-minute and look for the same thing. We got one, right? That held. Touched it a couple times. We got another that inverted. And then it got reclaimed. Telltale signs of high resistance liquidity conditions. We may not see a displacement, or at least in the morning session. Maybe the PM or afternoon session. Maybe they're waiting for Trump to talk because he has a speech. We just don't know what time. So maybe the market's anticipating that speech. Actually, that's probably what's happening. So anyways, y'all, it is past my 10:30 time. Seeing it may just keep going down, but I don't want to be a part of that. I like the low resistance trades. Low resistance. We could save that high resistance stuff for somebody else. But yep. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining. If you're new here, I appreciate it. Hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit the little bell notification so you know if I'm going live. Next week, I may miss a couple days. My son has a basketball tournament. His regionals will be out of town at the end of the week, Thursday and Friday. So I may not be live Thursday and Friday. I probably won't be, but I'll keep y'all updated. And if you're new, always check the post or community tab in YouTube. You'll always see, I'll always say in there if I'm going live or not, or when I am, and you'll always see an upcoming video if I am. So anyways, all right. Thanks for joining. Trade well, everybody. Have a great weekend.